Good evening, everybody. I'm sure you know who I am, but my name is Peter Thompson. I'm the Managing Director of CanTrack Global. I like to talk to video about a few things that interest me, and there's a really interesting story developing at the moment. It's not good news, unfortunately. There's several areas where crime is really massively up, and particularly in vehicle crime. And obviously one of our specialist areas with the CanTrack asset is stolen vehicle recovery systems. So I thought I'd take a little bit of a moment just to explain to you some of the things that we do, what we know about, some of the techniques that thieves are using. So this is going to be, for the James Bond gadget freaks out there, this is going to be quite an interesting video. I do hope you enjoy what we go through. So, and quite poignant actually, I've got an investigator on the road right at this moment in time, just north of London, doing a job for one of our clients on a commercial vehicle, one of the big areas of growth. Let's just pop that on hold a second, because this is what actually happened last night. It's now the next morning, and it was a great job. Got it back straight away for the client, and luckily still full of the 20-odd thousand pounds worth of parcels that were getting delivered out the back of it. So great job. So just statistically, let's go through it. Last year, from probably about July onwards, but last year, generally speaking, vehicle crime, vehicle-enabled crime, massively had an increase. So you're looking at statistically about 320,000, and there are some stats that are slightly higher, maybe as high as 330,000 vehicle crimes last year in 2016. This year, if the trend continues as it started this year so far, you're going to see the year end with something around 432,000 crimes. So that's an increase of 35%. I'm pretty sure most of you will find that as concerning as I do. Commercial vehicle crime is one of the hotspots in that area. One of the other ones that is, I guess, really shocking is motorbike crime. And I heard a stat that just blew me away the other day. As a biker, someone who cares passionate about bikes getting stolen and doing something about it, the statistic I heard was that 10,000 motorbikes have been stolen, have been sold this year so far. Approximately 10,300 have been stolen. Now, this statistic was a few weeks ago, but try and get your head around that. For the first time, as far as I know, in any industry, more assets were stolen than sold. It's absolutely shocking, and the things we're going to talk about today actually stemmed out of our Beat the Thief game. And some of the technology that thieves are using and what they're doing for this crime. So the Beat the Thief game, we first brought it to Plantworks in June. And then for the last 2 weeks of June, we moved it on to Mercedes-Benz Van Experience Live, where we showed it to all the customers passing through there. And it captured people's minds. And the reason being is that we were taking a fairly serious subject and in some ways quite techie, and we made it really real for people to understand what was happening. So we took this van, we hid 4 tracking devices in very covertly, so there was absolutely no chance of finding them just by looking. I mean, this is a proper professional fit. So as I say, conventional tracking devices, which is actually similar to our CanTrack GPS product. So we sell them too, and they're great for managing your fleet. The trouble is people think they're also protecting them from theft, and I just want to show you a few things as to why they're not. So first of all, I just want to show you a couple of slides that we put together, and forget the names. I've purposely chosen some videos and some URLs in here that are not related to this country and where we can buy them, but you have to take it as read that everything I'm going to show you today is not only commercially available, but we buy it and we have bought most of it. So the first thing that you're going to see up there is a code grab attack. Now, a code grab attack, this is aimed more at vehicles. Okay, and this is very, very simple. So if you have a remote control for your car, and let's face it, unless it's of a certain age, you're going to have at least a remote control to lock and unlock the cars. So the way that a remote grab works, it basically, you press your car key. Now, we've all done this. You press your car key and the doors don't lock. And you think, oh, that's a bit odd. You press it again, the doors lock, you walk away, you don't think any more about it. Now, actually, what can be happening in that situation is that there can be effectively a jamming signal around the car itself, okay, pointed at the car. You press the lock the first time, and they grab that code. So they take this code, and these codes are always in a sequence. So they take the first code. You then press the button a second time, and the door locks. You think nothing of it. And actually, they've grabbed that second code, and they've released the first one. So the doors now lock. You walk away. and once you've walked away, they're still holding this second code, the next in the sequence. They release that to the car, they unlock the door, and they're inside the vehicle. Now, two things can happen then. This kind of attack's quite commonly used for just theft from the vehicle. But secondly, they could also use that same attack to get in. And at that point, then we can move on to the next slide that you're going to see here. And the next slide talks about key coding, as well as a few other attacks. So there's just a few random screenshots there. You can see some technology that is used to clone a key. So normally via the OBD port, where you just literally pop the device in the OBD port, you have a blank key here, and it takes about 30 seconds to code a new key. And then basically, if they get stopped by the police, they've got a key in their pocket, they've got your car, it's probably not registered stolen because you don't know it's happened, and off they trot. There's also in the bottom left-hand corner there's an immobilizer bypass device. Does exactly what it says in the tin, so you pop it in the OBD port, and then when you put the key in the car, modern cars will have an immobilizer challenge to the key, but this device just turns that off. So you can put a new ignition lock in the car, start it, and off you go. Now, if these sound like they take a while to you, let me just give you a little bit of a reality check on that. These attacks, typically from standing out the vehicle to being inside, take about 60 seconds. So we're talking about someone looking at your vehicle, looking through the window, to actually driving off, potentially with a legitimate key in their pocket, within 60 seconds. And actually, I've seen a video of it done in 10 seconds, and in all honesty, I don't think I could get in my own car and drive off away in 10 seconds. So, these guys are pretty slick. Now, there's multiple different ways that they can actually get into the vehicle or attack the vehicle. With a motorbike, I think it's pretty well understood that the steering locks are with a pretty significant force can be snapped and broken. Within a car or commercial vehicle, there tends to be weak points, whether it's quarter-light windows or dead areas in alarm systems. The next slide you're going to see here, though, is one that I find really concerning, and it's on a website where there is an absolute myriad of tools available purely for criminality, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to say who that website is or what it is. And this particular tool here is about €750. So, and they range from that to about €1,000, and there's different makes for different cars. Now, this particular key, way I'd maybe like to describe it is a corporate pincushion. You've probably all seen these toys where it's got little metal pins and you put your hand in it and it remembers it, put your face in, etc. And it's kind of like that inside the key. It's actually a very clever piece of technology. Inside the key itself, you've got little spring-loaded pins, effectively. You put it in the vehicle, into the lock, and as you twist it, these pins pop into space, and they pop in and they fill the void in the vehicle lock. And then you lock the key, and what happens is you fill that space and you effectively have the original key in your pocket there. You'll unlock and lock the doors. It'll work in the under the bonnet. If you want to get access into the electrics, it'll work in the ignition barrel. That combined with an immobilizer bypass may be all you need to get it. So those keys readily available. There are certain manufacturers that provide certain types of keys that honestly are even easier. So some of you might have seen videos out there where a pair of pliers has been used to get into a particular commercial vehicle brand. So it's quite a concerning trend that we're seeing there. The last slide that you can see is a new type of attack, well, relatively new. Most people haven't heard of it before. It's actually been around for a few years now, and it's called a relay attack. And a relay attack is, you may have seen this particular vehicle in the Daily Mail where an estate agent left their keys on the car. This is very common with Range Rovers and certain other types of luxury vehicles. And what they're doing is they're preying on keyless technology, and keyless technology was probably the worst thing to happen from a security point of view in the name of convenience. And basically, the way this attack works, on the right-hand side, you've got something that looks like a walkie-talkie. The left-hand side is an amplifier. Both of these are called transceivers. And in this particular case that was reported in the Daily Mail, they were saying, oh, there was a laptop held up to the door. Well, it wasn't a laptop. It was actually this exact device that you can see in the photo. This is the actual one. And what happens is, next to your car, someone pulls the door handle, and that transmits to the person holding this other amplifying equipment, which talks to the key in your house. Greatly amplifies the signal to and from. The key goes, oh, I'm next to the car. It's asked me for a challenge code. Here it is. and then they transmit that back to the person standing next to the car. And they do the same thing to then start it. And I've not come across any keyless technology that is not defeated by this, because they're not messing with the signal, they're not trying to change it. They are literally just extending the range of the key. So I've not come across any type of vehicle that wouldn't be susceptible to this form of attack if it's got keyless go. So quite a concerning one for sure. So they're in the vehicle, they potentially got the key. And this is where we come in as a tracking, and particularly with our SVR or stolen vehicle recovery product, that's maybe a little bit different to other people. So you've got a tracking device in the car, great. You think you've got what you need, and inside that vehicle you've got some technology that is quite easy for the thieves to find. Okay, I've just gone and got myself a couple of tools that I wanted to show you. So the first one is this. This is a jamming device. It sounds really clever, and we think about it, maybe we think about the Klingons going on and cloaking device or something like this, but this will give you about 10 to 15 meters of invisibility from a GPS point of view. So interesting video, you might want to watch it. I did a presentation in Torremolinos last October. It's on CanTrack TV. And it was a presentation to IATI. If you're interested in technology around tracking, it's quite an interesting video to look at the history. Anyway, long story short, 24,000 kilometers away in space is a GPS satellite constellation. It's a very weak signal. By the time it hits the ground, it's not much of a signal to work with. Now, this system here, like I say, it's not sophisticated. It's a brute force attack. So if I'm sitting down on my sofa there and having a conversation with someone, and for those who remember Dom Jolly, perhaps he walks in with his megaphone and starts shouting. Now, myself and the guy on the sofa, we can still talk and our ears are still working, but Dom stopped us from being able to actually hear what the other one's saying. And that basically is what a jamming device does. Not clever, but very effective. So if you've got a stolen vehicle and you know where it is, or you think you know where it is, you can see the ignition turning on and off, but it's not going anywhere, you call the police, they go there, maybe, and it's not there. And the reason it's a maybe when the police call out is because, frankly, they are not too impressed when people call them up and they think they've got locations. And it's not just people, it's businesses, it's other tracking companies. And maybe they should be a little bit understanding of the police not turning up when the data they're working with often is just not good enough, and people don't understand why it's not working. Well, it's a jamming device. When we call them, it's a whole different story. I've had some almost stand-up arguments in offices with people before who refuse to believe that we get our investigations team going into maybe some of the travellers' sites where high levels of crime have been experienced, and actually, when you've got a 30-year retired ex-inspector or CID or traffic officer with firearms experience calling up to the police and saying, I can evidence that this vehicle is in this location, the turnout is completely different. So I'm in the vehicle, and now no one can see me and where I am. I just want to show you something, because this is 75 quid, freely available. Oh, there we go. So this is about £800. I'm going to be fairly restricted perhaps in what I tell you about this device. It's about £800. Suffice it to say, if I place this in the right kind of area, doing the right sort of thing, heavy unit that, I could get tens of miles of GPS blackout. So it's quite a scary thing, and actually it does a lot more than that. But bearing in mind the content and who this video is going to, I'm perhaps not going to go into any more here. Yet again, freely available. No one's knocked on my door and asked why I bought this particular device, and it can be used for some pretty nefarious purposes. 800 quid. Next thing I'd really like to show you is this. I'm going to block the name that's on the front of it. This is a scanner. This scans for radio signals. I'm currently scanning my Wi-Fi that's on here. I just saw the EE network. I saw Vodafone. Obviously, we're in the centre of Milton Keynes here. There's lots of different bits of data floating all over the place. The reason I got this equipment, I was called by we'll call him a security officer who was near Morocco, and they're saying, Peter, what is this? I don't know what it is. And there's nothing wrong with the vehicle, nothing looks dodgy. I said, there's no good reason for having this. This is counter surveillance. You need to take this car apart. This guy's looking for audio eavesdropping devices. They're looking for tracking systems. They're looking for anything that indicates the presence of some electronic systems that's going to cause them problems doing whatever nefarious activity they were up to. £1,200. Okay, that is one end of the scale. I'll grant you that. However, this is £12, freely available on all popular sites in the UK, etc. 12 quid, little RF unit. This thing here, this detects signals. So you might remember, if you're perhaps of a certain age, or you might remember it coming out your speakers or your phones, that when you're on a mobile phone call, that you might hear a noise out the speaker going did it. Okay, this is the speakers effectively picking up on the sound. The sound is still there, it's the transmission of those radio waves, but the speakers are now shielded so you don't hear it. So if I sort of try and show you here, you can start seeing, if I put my phone next to it, you can see it's communicating. You can see it's very simple for me to pick those signals up from it. And the same is true of a tracking device, because the tracking devices have all got mobile phone SIM cards in them. So the problem that you've got is, it doesn't matter how deeply and covertly you hide your tracking device, the signals are going to escape, and that's how the thieves can find it. They can also find it with voltage detectors that are running off standard diagnostic port kit if you're looking at a vehicle. But this is a really easy technology, and that takes me back to the reason we put the Beat the Thief game together, and actually show people with 4 really covertly hidden units as to how easy it was to find them, what the thieves are using, and these complete amateurs, they walk off and within a minute they're finding within a foot to an inch of exactly where that tracking unit is. And of course, if you're a thief, you're just taking the area apart and you're looking in and pulling it out. That's why the people that have experienced this and have had trackers are going, God, you wouldn't believe it. They've taken the tracker out within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes of the theft. It's got to be an inside job. It doesn't. It's a £12 tool, or if maybe you're one of your swanky thieves, a £1,200 tool. So this is what you're up against, and it is difficult. And I know it seems like maybe you're up against it and there's nothing you can do about it. And of course, this is where I'm going to talk about my product. But there are a couple of other things that I would say to you as well, is don't leave your valuables out in your vehicle, or don't make it easy. Think about where you're parking it, put it under lighting, try and lock it up. If it's a motorbike, chain it up. If you've got a commercial vehicle, try and take some simple steps, like on certain manufacturers, improve the locks, for example, with maybe a steering lock, a wheel lock. The more physical security, you're not going to stop the crime, and if they really want it, they are going to have it anyway. And if you've got things like racking and body builds, that's actually could be months that you're off the road waiting for that vehicle to get replaced. However, you're effectively going to push the crime along. I know that sounds like it's not very nice, but if they see one van, one's got physical locks on it, etc., and one hasn't, they're probably going to go, unless there's not much other choice around, they're probably going to go for the one that hasn't. The other thing, obviously, I'm going to mention, and part of the education piece is the CanTrack asset. And there's a reason that we have both our standard GPS devices, they're kind of plastic, they're brilliant little bits of kit, actually, and nothing wrong with them, but from a theft point of view, we're always having to explain to people, go, well, why have you got tracking and tracking? Well, that tool is for fleet management. It's for, where's my child when they're out at night, and I'll make sure that they're safe when they've just started driving. We've got accident detection, we've got fleet management, 30-second updates, live tracking, blah, blah, blah. But from a theft point of view, that is not going to get you very far. Unless you're lucky and you get to it really quickly, you might still get a sort of, as much as a 30% recovery rate is possible with a unit like that. If you take the CanTrack asset, which everything about it is purpose designed for theft. So I'll take you through just a couple of things. It's got no wiring. So there's no wiring to trace, there's no voltage drop to detect, and it's got a 5-year battery life. It's encased in solid resin. You can throw it on the floor. It's waterproof, it's dustproof. You can do absolutely anything with it, and you can hide it deep within your vehicle. It's jam resistant. If it detects a jamming device, and it will automatically roll over to another type of technology. It's got about 4. I'm not going to go into all of them, but it will automatically roll into another form of technology, and that will then be always giving us a location. So whatever happens, we can get a location. Within the unit, there's no there's no normal SIM card. Okay, so it's got something called an eSIM. As far as I know, we're the only tracking device out there to have eSIM embedded technology. We're completely network agnostic, so it's not like we'll just wake up and go, oh, we're with EE or Vodafone or O2, etc. We'll wake up and get any sniff of a mobile signal, bang, we're on it, we're talking, and we communicate. We also communicate much less, and this is really important. It's a battery powered product, so that's good for the battery, but actually it has some inherent advantages that we need. So if my conventional system is like a boat on the surface, it's always visible, it's always talking, it's always communicating. The CanTrack asset, unlike the CanTrack GPS, is like a submarine. So it's constantly under the surface, and about once a day, at completely random intervals, and it can be as many times as you want, but we recommend less is better for the reasons I've described to you here. It pops up its periscope and it communicates. And if it's been stolen, we slowly bring it back to life and we manage the situation into the recovery. So what that actually means is about 40 to 60 seconds a day where this unit is vulnerable to these kind of scanning attacks to find out where it is. A, it's highly unlikely they're going to scan for it, and B, and be able to pick it up. But if they do pick it up, it's not going to give them a long enough period of time when from first picking it up to actually getting the location, and they can't repeat that. So it's a really, really difficult. I'm giving it absolutely truthfully here because everything's got some Achilles heels. Okay, there's no perfect device. However, the only Achilles heels that we've got are that 40 to 60 second period, and the second one is physically finding it. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter how good your product is, if they find it, it's not going to work for you. However, we've got about a 90% recovery rate in most sectors, give or take a couple of percent. So we've got an extremely high likelihood. And if I look back at the reasons why it ever doesn't work, it's really because it's found. I pretty much guarantee that if that unit is actually not found, then we're going to get your vehicle back because it does what it's supposed to do all the time. And so does the investigations team, which is the final point and most important perhaps about our unit. The investigations team are made up of ex-police officers. They've often got 30-year records, inspectors, CID, firearms officers, traffic. These guys are a completely different ballgame when they're out there. So you've got high technology coupled with traditional boots on the ground security guys who are former police officers. And with no disrespect to any other security people out there, when you've had that training, you know how to assess the situation, you can just sniff where the areas of danger are and where stolen equipment is likely to be. And when we call the police, if it's on a traveller site, if it's in an area of high danger or criminality, we get the response because we've got a professional team on the ground acting in your best behalf. The next slide I want to show you is a slightly unusual one, and it's actually really important because there's another piece of technology that I've not shown about the CanTrack asset, and that's its homing beacon. So for those of you who've watched wildlife programs and they've seen someone hold up something that looks like a TV aerial with a beep, 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 this is a homing beacon system. It's VHF. It's really, really important. A tracking device cannot get something back when it's stolen in a high degree of situations without having this homing beacon. The reason being is when something's stolen, it tends to get taken inside shipping containers, tends to get taken inside metal industrial buildings. And the reason I wanted to show you the photo that you can see on your screens at the moment is because we get these really quite often. This is, I almost call it like the sort of the Russian doll theft. So you've got what you can't see at the back of the container. You'll see a photo of that in a second. There's a £30,000 compressor in the back of this container. So it itself is a metal box. Our unit is hidden deep inside of this. This is one of our national customers. That's then taken inside a shipping container, which the door was shut, obviously, when we got there. And the shipping container itself was inside a metal, corrugated metal and breeze block construction industrial unit. Without the homing beacon, you would not stand a chance of getting this unit back. Even if you had a GPS system that they hadn't blocked and worked right up to the doors of the industrial unit or even up to the doors of the container, unless you can evidence that your vehicle's actually inside there or whatever your stolen thing is, you can't get a warrant. Warrants are signed off by members of the public. You need to be able to evidence it's in there, and unfortunately, because of the jamming and other reasons, the police don't trust conventional GPS technology alone. So it's an essential piece of kit and something worth mentioning to you. So I'm not going to go and sell the product all day long. I just wanted to point out the key differences, tell you a bit about the technology. It's already been a fairly long video, but it's a real subject that I'm passionate about, and I hope you find it interesting, and also in the process understand why we're so different from anyone else. We know what's going on in the here and now within asset theft and vehicle theft particularly. We know the tools, the technology, we buy it, we break it, we use it, we understand if there are any flaws or weaknesses in what we do, not just in the procedure, not just in the equipment, but in the actual SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and we adjust them depending on what the needs are. So I hope you found this interesting, I hope you found it useful, and get in contact with us through all the contact details you see below you on the webpage if we can help you any further. Thanks very much and have a good day.